Hello and welcome everyone to the information session about private equity course from Columbia Business School. My name is Rudy Falat, and I'll be your moderator today. So once again, you're in the right place if you are looking for more information on private equity online course from CBS, Columbia. With me, I have a Professor Michael Ewens as well. He can correct my pronunciation, by the way. We didn't practice for this one. But all right, so that sounds good. So welcome, everybody. And before we go, we would like to know a little bit about yourselves as well. If you could put in the chat where you're connecting from, that would be great. And other than that, you can put your questions on the Q&A button, even though we have a little presentation prepared for you. So hopefully a lot of the questions will be answered through that. But of course, this is meant to be an interactive session. So anytime you have questions, please put them in the Q&A. But first and foremost, if you can tell us where are you connecting from? Alice from the UK. All right, so we got Alice from the UK as first one. Anybody from New York? New York, New York. Okay, let's see. A few more people. Okay. All right. So we take the UK as granted for now, and then we'll see about more people joining in later. So today you will hear from Michael. In a second, he will give you a little bit of an overview of the program. If in case you're watching this from the recording as well, of course, you will get the slides as well if you registered for this. And there will be some contact information for the next steps. That's what we'll tell you at the end. And I work with Emeritus delivering similar programs as well from Columbia, so I will guide you through the session today. What's ahead of us? This is the agenda. Seems very long, but we'll keep it light actually and to the point because first of all, I'd like to make sure that you know a little bit about Columbia Business School. I guess you do know if you are here, but still. Same thing also applies to Columbia University because Columbia Business School is part of the university as well. And what sets them apart? And then why are we talking about private equity online course? Who is it for? Then what will you learn if you take this course? And of course, about Michael and also any assignments that you will need to do there, like such as capstone project, you will have case studies and what will be waiting for you at the end as a reward for your hard efforts and kind of a means to signal that you now are a private equity professional is the digital certificate from Columbia Business School as well. So we will have a Q&A session at the end, but in case you have questions, don't hesitate, put them in the Q&A anyway, anytime you feel like it, and we can answer that as we go along as well. So Columbia Business School, as you see here in front of you, is established in 1916. So this is more than 100 years. It is one of what's called Ivy League institutions. In case you're not from the United States, you see here on the part of the picture is a new building. This is a new building, and one of those halls is called Henry Kravis Hall, right? And Henry Kravis is quite instrumental when we talk about PE. So something to bear in mind as well when we talk about prestigious alumni, right? Because that's the next page. It's nearly 500,000 alumni of Columbia University overall. Some of them are also former presidents, 4 presidents, and over 100 Nobel Prize winners. So you will see here that this university has a tremendous impact on the United States and globally as well. And it is a top-class education that you will get there, of course, and whether it's Columbia Business School or university. Now, why is that? Because the Columbia Business School faculty uses their original research from their work when they teach. So this is not just recycling something that you find on the internet in any case, but it is research-backed teaching that you will see when you are going to take one of the courses here. And we have a few more people joining as well. So in case you can tell us where you're connecting from in the chat, that would be great. I know we have UK in the house. And if you have anybody do we have anybody from the US? Let us know. In any case, we can go on. So why private equity? obviously private equity has received a lot of share of voice in the media, but what's important for us is also look at the numbers, look at the stats. It's over $1 trillion of projected deal value still in 2025, right? So this is obviously something that you should pay attention to, whether you're looking at it as an investor or private equity investor, or even an asset manager, or even as an individual or any person in finance. I think should be knowledgeable about private equity. And you see also here that it is connected now to AI. And we'll talk about it. How can you use AI, leverage AI in creating value as a private equity investor? This is actually the number one question for any of the investors, right? The reason to exist is to enhance shareholder value or investors' returns versus public markets. So what are the key takeaways? Let's hear from Michael, and we will then hear more about the curriculum as well from him.
Sure. Thanks, Rudy. So this program, titled Private Equity, is particularly focused on the value creation piece of the private equity, what we call toolbox. So private equity, from a high level, is about owning companies and transforming them and hopefully selling them. The one big theme of the course is what makes private equity as an owner unique compared to the corporation itself or other types of owners. And we do that through thinking about what's unique about the toolbox available to the private equity investor. This includes things like the funds it's involved in, its own alignment incentives, and how it manages the balance sheet and ownership structure of the firm after its ownership. This informs the entire cycle, from evaluating investments to evaluating plans or strategies to create value, or value creation plans. And value creation plans, essentially quite simple if you think about it. It's basically a revenue piece. Can I improve revenues, or can I lower costs, ultimately improving profitability or EBITDA? Now, in the background, there's actually, as we'll see through the modules, there are other features of value creation that come through the debt side and through governance. But at the heart of all value creation is just trying to move the needle on profitability. And in the end, we're going to talk a lot about the exit strategy. How do we transform a company, but then ultimately make it sellable to somebody else? And this is basically packaging a company for an owner, either going public or another private equity investor. So the basic highlights, Rudy, you want me to cover this, right? Okay, so
yes.
The highlights are, oh, sorry. We're going to talk about basically a piece of both online and live. So what's fun about this exercise is you'll get to see me a little bit in videos, 5 to 10 minutes, where we're going to cover a balanced view of private equity. Now, in the background is always going to be a theme about using AI. I suspect everyone in the room right now has found a way to incorporate AI into their work or even into their daily lives. Private equity is no exception. And while it's early days, there are unique opportunities for AI to impact the entire cycle, from deal evaluation, investment evaluation, value creation ideation, like how do we figure out what to do, evaluation of value creation plans, the whole piece of this. And I have to admit, this is in early days, and that means there aren't really straight answers here, but that actually makes it quite exciting. We're going to have live sessions, where I did one this week, where I did a session to talk about what was going on in the class and gave students the opportunity to ask questions about private equity in general and the class. We also have case studies, which I'll show you a couple of examples later. But the key thing with private equity is there are principles, and ultimately you learn through application. So application to real world cases where a private equity firm bought a company and took it over, to talking about the trends in the industry to understand what's happening today. There'll be a capstone project, and throughout the course, online, interacting with your peers, you'll have hand-on experience to do valuation exercises, to do value creation plan evaluations, and ultimately learn from your peers along the way.
All right, so let's talk about who is this course for as well. If you have any comments, Michael, please go ahead.
Sure. So this slide speaks for itself, but the class was aims to cover a wide set of backgrounds. You can see here mid-career folks who aren't directly in private equity, And why this is valuable is private equity has a lot to teach corporations in general. And so if you're interested in the toolbox of private equity to perhaps take to your own firm, that is certainly valuable. In fact, there was a McKinsey report recently about this very idea. Non-finance professionals could benefit from this for two reasons. The first is related to what I described before, but the other is that private equity is, in some sense, always at risk of coming into your firm, and understanding as a non-financial professional how that works and what they're looking for is pretty important. Now, the other, of course, piece of this is folks who are already in the private equity industry at the mid or senior level. And those folks know a ton about how deals are done, how exits are done. But value creation is a relatively new piece, and seeing it as sort of holistic view in this course can be valuable. Investment bankers and professionals in that space also benefit because a lot of the fees and business in the investment banking space is helping private equity firms buy companies, but also help them acquire companies of their existing portfolios called add-ons. And understanding the other side, the buyers of your services, is certainly very important. And then finally, CXOs and executives of firms, if you just want to understand how cost management, revenue generation, and the like works in private equity, that could help you in your own business as well.
So why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background as well? Thank you.
Sure, sure. So I'll let this slide do what it is, and I can even maybe replicate that pose a little bit. So I'm the David and Elsie M. Dodd Professor of Finance at the Business School, and I also co-direct the Columbia Business School Private Equity Program. That program aims to connect our alumni with our students to help our students land jobs in and around the private equity industry, support research in the private equity space, and finally, support our curriculum, including these executive education programs that you're hearing about now. Now, I am a researcher first, so I've been studying intermediation in finance via both private equity and venture capital for almost, I guess, 15 years now. And I'm ultimately interested in this value creation piece because in the black box of private equity, how does it add value for its investors? It buys a company. Ideally, it's buying low and selling high. How is it doing that? What magic or what's inside the black box is very interesting because it teaches us what's quote unquote wrong with the portfolio companies before they were owned by PE. And that can help us understand the economics of corporate ownership, about private versus public firms and the like. I have a foot in the real world outside of academia. I have been advising as a quantitative advisor of venture capital firm, Correlation Ventures. I'm probably one of the first data scientists in this space where I brought data to venture capital with this firm's help, of course. I also support a lot of research at the university and private equity where we bring in academics to talk about cutting edge topics that academics are interested in this space. But yeah, that's about it. There's all my educational stuff, but that's, I think, enough about me.
All right. All right. No worries. So we wanted to also give you a bit of flavor of the curriculum as well. So here's an overview of the modules. Each module equals a week. We release the content on a weekly basis, so not in one go. So bear with us. If you're gamer level 6, you need to start level 1 and then continue to level 6. So, Michael, if you could give us a bit more color on each of those modules, that would be great.
Sure. It's useful to start at the sort of high level. The modules are covering the initial deal evaluation all the way to realizing an exit, realizing and exiting an investment. So while we're not going to go through every single legal document and evaluation technique, because we only have 6 weeks, this will hit on every important stage of the deal process and importantly, the ownership process. So module 1, making a good investment and using AI, takes the toolbox, introduces the toolbox of private equity, leverage governance solutions and operational changes with the background of what makes that unique compared to other ownership forms. And we evaluate businesses. Which kinds of businesses are well suited to be inside of a private equity portfolio, given we can add value? And AI is throughout this module thinking about how we can use these tools and all the information that's available about portfolio companies to do a better job of reducing our set of investments, because ultimately private equity firms make 10 investments in a fund. They're not making hundreds. And so we have to really narrow our funnel. In module 2, we put this deal together. And the way we do that is we think about our portfolio company, the one we're going to buy, and we're going to think about what our organization, the private equity firm, can do in terms of financial and governance. So what governance is how do I organize the board? What management do I keep? Which management do I let go? And on the financial side, we think about this in terms of how do we manage the income statement, what pieces and moving parts, but ultimately it's also about balance sheet. How much leverage do we put on this company, and how can that in fact increase value for us? In module 3, we narrow in on the cost side. So our goal in ownership, that's module 2 through 5, we're going to own a company, want to fix it or improve it. One of the more important ones is lowering costs or improving efficiency of the firm. And so we're going to talk about the tools that are available and go through case studies of how private equity uniquely attacks these particular strategies. In module 4, we go up the income statement and think about revenue. How do we move the needle on growing revenue and increasing our revenue base? So there's multiple strategies for them. One of the more popular ones is called inorganic growth. Inorganic growth is about buying another company and adding it to the one we already own, gaining synergies, maybe increasing market share, lowering costs. This is a very popular strategy, and we'll use AI tools to help us refine our strategy and brainstorm ultimately. Now, what's important about private equity, you ask any private equity manager about their deals, 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell you about the good ones. What module 5 does is focus a little bit on what could go wrong. When we build a deal and we consider our ownership of a company, we always have to consider that things can go wrong. And this can be a value creating opportunity. And that might say somewhat counterintuitive, but if you think of most companies, they face the ups and downs of the market, and private equity is no exception. And so if private equity can bring to their ownership a novel toolbox to deal with downside issues, that is value creating in a world where they, of course, don't have that. So we're going to think about how value creation plans adapt and how they're robust to these. And then finally, we want to sell our company. We want to sell high, buy low, sell high. Sell high. Module 6 is about identifying how to sell a company, given we've done all this magic through module 2 through 5, and figure out how that realized value creation plan can translate into the highest price. So things like multiples expansion and acquirer identification are critical.
Wonderful, great stuff. And we already have a first question in the Q&A. Anonymous is asking if there are any prerequisites for this course. And I think you mentioned that some familiarity with EBITDA and COGS and things like this is needed. But what does that mean as a prerequisite?
Great question. So I encourage students who take this to have a basic, have some basic comfort with working in an income statement and basic financial statements in Excel. We are not going to go, if I may say, crazy in modeling, but I will take for granted that you understand the basics of how income statements are built, how balance sheets work, what's leverage, what's debt, how does equity work, how does equity and valuation work. We don't have enough time to cover all those topics. So my view is if you have a basic corporate finance and valuation background, you've done some of that, you will be well prepared. I'd also encourage you, if you consider this course, is to get yourself a little bit more comfortable with sort of the big players in private equity. So know who's a limited partner, what's a private equity fund. And that's relatively easy to do with online resources and some of the readings, just so that the nomenclature and vocab is not going to throw you off in the beginning.
All right, I hope that's clear. And then let's talk about Capstone project. What is it? How hard or how easy is this?
Well, I don't know if we built it to be in the middle, right? Too easy, too hard, right? The learning opportunity. But you're basically going to be tasked with a portfolio company and follow the module steps, right? Evaluate it as a possible investment. Take that company, its characteristics, where has it been? What are its possibilities for where it's going? What industry is it in? What competitive dynamics? What's its management team? Those pieces inform how you're going to build a strategy to create value. And this could depend on what you think subjectively is more important. There is effectively no right answer in this model. There are wrong answers, right? You could imagine hire a CEO who only has red hair is probably not a good answer for creating value, but there is a huge list of value creation opportunities, and it depends on your own skills, the firm you're investing from, and the like. Another part of this is once you've identified strategies, I like to think it can't be that easy. Why didn't the company do it themselves if it was so easy? It must be there's risks and costs. So another part of the capstone is to evaluate those two things. It's easy to say, let's increase revenues, but okay, at what cost? How long is it going to take? And are there downsides? And then finally, there's a great model called a value bridge that helps you understand the moving parts to what makes a company go from, let's say, $1 billion to a $2 billion sales price. This value bridge allows us to isolate the different strategies, value creation through revenue, costs, leverage, and governance, and ultimately depict an exit strategy.
All right, so capstone project, and but there's more work in this course, kind of a hands-on work, right? It's not just reading of the theories, but there are case studies. So can you tell us a little bit more about some of those case studies here?
Sure. So in the first set, we think about hypothetical portfolio companies and give you different scenarios for why a company, for example, might be better suited for organic, that is, fixing its sales force or hiring new talent, versus inorganic, that is buying another competitor or building something vertically as a firm. And so that's going to be our first set of case studies, really pushing this theme of how do you pick among your tools to get the highest ROI in the shortest amount of time. We then talk about screen vision case, which is a fun case I've been teaching in my MBA courses, where it's a movie advertising business. So there are ads played before the movie begins. And the case talks about when things go sideways. This company had some issues with COVID. Basically, all movie theaters closed. And it was a great example of how, while private equity has a lot of downsides, it can deal with negative outcomes in a way that other firms often cannot. And so we talk about the situation the CEO and the owner faced. And then finally, one of my favorite cases, again, a bit about when things go sideways, is Bain Capital's ownership of Outback Steakhouse. And in this case, they basically owned the company and had an amazing value creation plan all set out. And then the financial crisis happened. And they struggled to find ways to continue to meet their obligations paying debt. These are called loan covenants. So the lender said, look, you've got to keep EBITDA over interest at a certain level. And they were getting close. And what the case does is show just how a private equity firm can, in these tough situations, continue to find value creating opportunities while keeping the business running. I think it's a great example of basically not everything goes right, and value creation is often in those bad states of the world.
All right. And well, at the end of the day, you will go through these modules. You will need to do some case studies and a capstone. And you will get the digital certificate, which is not just a PDF, how it looks like here, but it's embedded with the security features. So people, when they want to do background checks on you, they can use this, right? A lot of people, when they finish course like this, they share it on the LinkedIn. You can share it on your CV as well. So this will be something that you can use to signal other people that you put time and effort to learn about private equity from Columbia Business School. And if you have any other questions, there are two options here. First of all, we still have obviously time for plenty of questions now, but in case you would like to have a follow-on discussion one-on-one, you can schedule a call with an advisor. So you can scan this first QR code. So that one is about follow-up. If you have questions, is this the right program for me? You can have a one-on-one in-depth conversation if you want. Or if this is clear to you that this is something that you would like to do, this fits well, then you can scan the QR code on the bottom and just apply now. You can register there. We will put the same links in the chat as well in a moment, because if you are here with us, you can maybe find it easier. So in a second, you will have the links there as well. But before we turn over to this, we have a few more questions in the chat. So Anonymous is asking, I'm looking to enter a PE sector. I'm from financial background, but PE is new to me. So is this the right program for me? What do you think, Michael?
Yes, I think this can certainly help. That is a transitioning to private equity. The typical path is either some years of investment banking experience or are you working on deals, M&A deals in general, or a third is you worked at a firm that interacted with private equity firms. Essentially, you know the cadence of deals, you understand how valuation works. Because hired at a junior level, they're going to throw you into modeling and don't have time to train you on that stuff. This course is going to be a great opportunity if you see at a high level how the private equity life cycle works and how the particular value creation tools work. I think pairing this course with some of the online modeling tools that are available where you can, get your reps in and doing Excel would be get a big step up. But it is a competitive industry, so I wish I could tell you it's like enough to do it. It's not, but it certainly gives you enough to start thinking about a conversation and an interview about how private equity works.
All right, great stuff. And another question here, how often is the program conducted? So the next run will be starting in early September, I believe, so in a few weeks. But of course, this is being offered several times in a year, but there's no set schedule. So it's not like we can guarantee that there will be another one before the year end, or there will be 5 more next year. Most likely there will be some, but it's not the set schedule. So in case you are interested and you are available, then in next few weeks we start another one. So in this case, you can again scan the QR code on the bottom, and then you fill in the registration details. You can go ahead, or if you have questions, I would rather suggest before deferring the decision to schedule a call with an advisor and to find out more if this is the right thing for you or not. And in the chat, yes, you already have the links, so you can either schedule the call, just click on the link, or you can apply for the program in these using the second link. So once again, if you're watching the video, maybe it's easier, on the other hand, just to scan the QR code. One good thing that came out of the pandemic, right? We can all use QR codes now, so you can just use this, and this will lead you to the right place. But perhaps you have more questions, so let's take an opportunity of having Michael here. So any questions regarding the content, for instance, the modules and things like this? And Michael, you talked a lot about AI, making a good investment cases and AI use cases. I've heard of people using AI for deal screening, outsourcing basically the work of analysts and associates to provide potential target lists and things like this. Anything else? Maybe, I know you talked about it, but where do you think in this value chain AI can help the most right now?
I think the early part of deal evaluation, or sorry, deal screening is extremely valuable, particularly the AI tools that have connections to big online data sets where it's really challenging to find targets. I think the other piece is related is the inorganic M&A. So if you're looking for add-on transactions to buy companies to bolt on to your company, it's another great tool. I think it has this sort of underappreciated role for brainstorming support. So, giving the AI a rich bit of context on the company and industry and asking it to like evaluate or even give you some seed ideas for novel value creation strategies when you're sort of stuck, I think is super powerful. I think the limitations thus far are you really need to give it the data that you have to help you read it. So going in with nothing and just say, I have a software company and I want some ideas, it helps, but I don't think it's going to move the needle from a competitive landscape perspective. But if you can feed in a bunch of information on a portfolio company and you're not violating any rules, that is super powerful for value creation strategies and even a little bit of modeling.
Okay, well, great stuff. I don't know if that's good or bad for the analysts and associates. Some people it's bad, right? Because they will not learn how to do it, or there will be fewer jobs. Other people will think that they will go to sleep earlier. Who knows, right?
I don't think it's going to outsource everyone at this point. I think
Okay.
the mistakes that need human intervention are extremely costly in a private equity world that does 2 deals a year. If you do a mistake, you make a mistake by just letting the AI do everything, someone's going to lose their job very quickly. So I don't think humans are going to be completely supplanted. I like to think of them as a tool right now rather than a supplement, but we'll see.
Perfect. Okay, so augmented humans. All right. All right, so let's see if we have any more questions. So private equity, Columbia Business School. There is a capstone project. There are case studies to learn from. There's a live faculty session. So it's a mixture of asynchronous learning and live learning as well. And you know, it's short and sweet in a sense that it's 6 weeks, but you will learn everything you need to know if you are at this level in your career. So if you're a mid-career a finance professional or senior non-finance professional, or if you're in private equity or banking, or if you're the CXO, you want to know more how private equity works in a modern way, in this modern way, right? Because everybody's talking about AI and what does that mean for their industry? And Michael is super close to this because, as he mentioned, he's one of the first data scientists in this field as well, right? So it's a perfect combo that you will learn from. All right, I see there's more. All right, so Alice is asking you, how is this program different than similar programs offered by other schools? Obviously, without criticizing other programs, but Michael will make a pitch for it now, right?
I'll be honest, I don't know the other programs as well. I think this one, from what I understand, has a unique focus on value creation, thinking about the qualitative and quantitative tools available. But ultimately, I think, you're going to have to make a judgment call. Like, is it the style? Is it the instructor? Is it the spacing, the cadence that you like? Good schools run a lot of great programs. And I think what I've learned in my years of teaching is it's sort of easy to say you have content. It's hard to present it in a way that's uh, you learn something and you feel that the instructor's engaged. So do your best to evaluate on those things, and I think you can't really lose. I know Emeritus may want to say it's the best program in the world, but it's unique. So I think it's a great program. I put a lot of work into it, and so did Emeritus.
And Columbia Business School is all about entrepreneurship and finance, right? And connections to private equity are undeniable. You know, there are two buildings, right, of Columbia Business School. So I'm not sure from this angle whether this is the Henry Kravis Hall or not. But if it is, I think that's one of the good examples of um, how Columbia Business School is on top of everything that is going on in private equity. Alice is also asking if this program focuses on a specific industry. I would say that this program is industry agnostic, but Michael, you can add to this if you like.
Agreed. There's no focus on industry except with the condition that we're focused on thinking about portfolio companies that are acquirable by private equity. So, for example, we're not going to talk about high-tech firms or biotech firms because those tend to not be the kinds of firms that private equity can buy for a host of reasons.
Absolutely. All right, so once again, what's in front of you is link or QR code to schedule a follow-up discussion with an advisor, or you can just download the brochure, fill in the registration details, and apply now. Same links you have in the chat if you are with us live. But if you're watching this from the recording, you can just use the QR code. It's going to work. And we are looking forward to see you hopefully in a few weeks in this course. Any final words from you, Michael?
No, I think I'm excited to run this again. I think this topic, value creation, which is at the heart of the middle of the modules, is the growing piece of this industry. I think there's a lot of disruption with AI that's going to move the needle quite a lot on the modeling side. I think that's become a commodity. But what hasn't yet become a commodity is understanding how to make operational and financial and governance changes to firms. And if you talk to the players, both the investors and the PE investors, they'll tell you that value creation is top of mind.
Absolutely. I think that's a great key message to take away with you. So value creation in private equity industry, right, as a kind of a distinguishing feature. So when you are also thinking about this program, let's think of that as well. So Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see you soon.